Hello, it's Dr. Pat. We have a emerald tree boa with us today, and we have another video with an emerald tree boa. This is a different boa. This is a female. She's 8 years old. She is from a breeder's collection. She did lay 12 eggs back in December, and the breeder has noticed since then she's been regurgitating her meals, and she laid one single egg about 3 weeks after that. And since then, she's not been coiling as tightly. She's more lethargic, and she's very striky today, which normally she's a pretty good girl. And so he feels like in general, she's probably got another egg in there. And if you look, I'm just holding her head because she's in a bad mood. But if you look above her cloaca, you can see there's a very distinct bulge there. And that could potentially be an egg. And so the plan for this girl today is to get general anesthesia, which will relax everything. I can actually look up in there and see if we can visualize an egg. We'll get a radiograph, which should show if there's any others higher up, and then proceed from there. It is very common to see dystocia or retained eggs in snakes, just like you can in birds. And the problem is the longer the eggs have been there, the more likely they are to get stuck to the lining or the tissue of the oviduct, and they can actually adhere to that lining the longer they're there, and then they can't physically move. And so that's one of the concerns for this girl, because they've been in there for quite a while, or at least we assume that they have. And the other factor is oxytocin is quite frequently given to many animals to induce egg laying. In many of the reptiles, it's kind of hit and miss. It's not great at stimulating egg laying, and you don't want to give it if the egg is actually stuck to the oviductal tissue. So step one is to try to look up in there, see what we have going on, see if we have an egg or confirm the egg, and see if it's mobile. There are a variety of things to be able to extract the egg or move the egg. Under anesthesia, we can lubricate around this and flush with saline and then try to milk the egg out. It depends on if it's through the oviduct and into the cloaca or not, as far as how much success we can have with that. You can also do an ovocentesis, where you actually will stick a 20 gauge needle through the belly. That has more risk, and it's a last resort, not a first resort. And the danger of that is the longer these eggs have been here, the more the egg interior is dried out and hardened, and you don't have liquid you can aspirate. So oftentimes not successful if they've been there a while. And then the last resort is surgical removal if we have dystocia and we can't get the eggs out any other way. But it is really important that we get this taken care of for this girl. The other thing is these guys do shed their teeth, which you'll see on a previous video. We have an emerald tree boa that has tooth impactions and abscessation. She does not have that, but if I open her mouth, which is hard to do because I'm not looking at the front, I know you're mad. You can see that she has just shed her lower right fang tooth. Hold on, baby. I know, we gotta be gentle. Gotta be gentle. But she's already starting to regrow it. But you can see on, yeah, it's hard from this view, but this tooth is actually just starting to regrow and is much shorter than this other tooth. That's perfectly normal for them to do. But they should always shed a tooth and immediately be growing a tooth, because the tooth that's coming in is the one pushing the tooth out. So if you have an emerald tree boa and they're not regrowing a tooth, or there's any inflammation or redness around there or swelling, that's probably an abscess or an impaction, and you should get them looked at. But with her, the main issue is probable dystocia. So we're going to get her some diagnostics and figure it out and take care of her. So you have to be wondering, what did we find? What could we do for this girl? She was placed under anesthesia and radiographs were taken of her entire length. We found several areas of soft tissue density that were impacted throughout her GI tract, as well as a focal or regional area of what appeared to be dried, collapsed, impacted egg material with calcification. We inserted a catheter, lubricated the cloaca, and flushed saline up into the oviduct around the impacted material, and then we're able to milk out or express the retained egg fragments, as well as some hard dried fecal material that was unlikely to have passed. She is now getting supportive care that includes anti-inflammatories for the significant inflammation, as well as antibiotics for suspected oviductal inflammation and infection. And a full laboratory panel is pending on her to assess her overall general health and address any concerns.